I searched high and low to find 3 people that are doing partnerships wrong. And I'm going to let them introduce themselves. And what I'd like you to do is give us a sense of the brands that you're representing and the products or services so everybody kind of gets where you're coming from. So we'll start with you.
Yeah, sure. So Aaron Weigum, Director of Performance Partnerships at Disney Streaming Services, working across ESPN Plus and then Disney Plus once that launches later this year. And working across all kinds of partnerships that we'll get into, influencers, affiliates, publishers, et cetera.
Wade?
Yeah, I'm Wade Tonk, and I'm the Senior Affiliate Manager at Fanatics. We run the largest e-commerce sites in the licensed sports merchandise business, so anything you can think of with a team sports logo, we probably sell it. It includes Fanatics, NFL Shop, NBA Store, Lids, a lot of pretty solid brands.
Okay.
David, direct-to-consumer lead at Harry's. We're a men's grooming company selling products in shave, shower, skincare, and more recently hair, if you can tell by my amazing do. And yeah, we have, all of our products are available both online at harrys.com, which is the division that I oversee, as well as retail partners like Walmart, Target, and Boots now overseas in London.
So Wade, I want to start with you. You've been working at Fanatics for over 8 years. Started the affiliate channel, or took it over, I guess.
Right.
And at some point, you guys were just doing affiliate marketing, and I know from keeping my eyes on you all these years that something changed. You guys pivoted somehow and started doing partnerships, and I'm just kind of wondering, how did that happen, and was it conscious? Did it happen organically? Was there a meeting? How did you suddenly shift from partnerships, and give us a sense of what those kind of partnerships were that you pivoted to?
And even going back to when I started at Fanatics almost 9 years ago, we've always had some partnerships with blogs, forums, things like that, places where fans aggregate and talk about their teams, and some media partners. But probably about 4 or 5 years ago, we got a new leadership group in, a lot of former eBay people, all very data-driven. And one of the things we started to do at that point was do a lot of kind of deep diving into what kind of actual value we're picking up from these different, different partners and different types of partners, because they had definitely had a bias against coupons and cash back from their previous life. We thought that there was some value, but it wasn't as much value as a lot of people think. And so we started diving into the data and realizing that when we were taking a look at like a retail meetup, for instance, and diving into Omniture, we're looking at first click, last click, same session, and we're seeing for like coupon sites like a retail meetup, if we're lucky, maybe 20% of those transactions came through without having multiple other channels touching on those, meaning that if we're paying them more than a couple percent, we're probably losing money on that transaction. But when we took a look at some of these content partners, bloggers, forums, things like that, even media sites, we were seeing 96, 97% first click, last click, same session. So these partners were sending traffic, highly qualified, pre-sold directly to us, and they were doing, the customers were doing what these partners told them to do, or asked them to do. And so at that point, we really started to lean in and try to ramp up, bringing on more of those folks and kind of looking out at all these different teams that we're forecasting to be successful teams for us over the course of a year, and figuring out who the partners were that had that traffic, and going out and doing deals with them. So I'd say that's probably the point where it really started to magnify. It's always been there in the background, but it's really been a big deal for us, especially over the last 4 to 5 years. In the last 2 years, we've really been cranking it up, and we've been seeing some crazy wins with multiple blog forum kind of partnerships around team affiliations that have driven $100,000 plus in revenue on specific events, some even over $500,000. So
So when you say an event, like an actual game?
Super Bowl, college football national championship, World Series. Big events like that. And there's, over the course of a year, there's also kind of a trickle of business coming in, kind of constantly. But it's when we get a big event, a championship event win, something like that, where we really have a chance to do some damage if we've got a solid partner base built around a team.
So Aaron, if I look up your LinkedIn, you have a lot of affiliate marketing experience under your belt.
Too much.
Yes. No, come on. But you went to Disney and you started a partnership channel, not an affiliate program. How was that? How did that happen internally? What was the discussion like positioning this different than affiliate?
Yeah, so it's interesting in the entertainment space where affiliate actually has multiple meanings. And so when we look at, say, the cable linear business within the Disney ESPN ecosystem, affiliate has a whole new meaning within that enterprise, and it typically refers to the Comcast, the Dishes, the Coxes, and those distributor relationships that you have. And so part of it, frankly, was to kind of differentiate and compartmentalize this internally as we marketed our own team and ourselves as something a bit different. And I think it also speaks to the ethos of the team and our acquisition efforts where we do view this as more than just affiliates. It's really about building partnerships that go above and beyond strategic relationships. There's brand building, product awareness being generated there. There's a lot more value than I think a traditional affiliate diction implies.
All right. David, at Harry's, I mean, you came from lynda.com, you guys were doing partnerships there. Was that kind of just a natural transition for you to say, we're not going to do affiliate, we are going to build out, focus more on partnerships? Or how did that happen internally and get off the ground?
Yeah, I mean, having had the experience at Lynda, there were definitely things that I wanted to bring over to Harry's as well. And for us, I mean, it meant like we wanted to create top of funnel awareness, so introduce our brand to people for the first time and stay away from the bottom of the funnel. And partnerships was a really great vehicle that allowed us to do that. And when I started, I was overseeing kind of all of customer acquisition, and we had a lot of other channels that we were playing in. So it's important for us to think about how these channels could all play together and not disrupt what we were doing from one channel by trying to create an environment where you could sort of, in a bad or negative way, like reattribute some of those sales to a partner that kind of plays at the bottom of the funnel. And so we wanted to sort of hand select partners that we knew would be top of the funnel, introduce our brand to people for the first time, and do it in a way that created value both for us and for the partners so that these things could be sustainable over the long run. And I think we've done a pretty good job with that. I mean, we have, a lot of partnerships that are pretty bespoke, pretty unique, things that I don't know that I would have, if I kind of rewind the clock 2.5 years ago when we were first starting the program, that I would have guessed would have been good partners for us or would have driven like nearly as much volume as they ended up driving. So we really sort of took at first, at least like an internal kind of like inbound approach. People would reach out and say, hey, we want to partner with you. And we started answering those calls and figuring out what would work for both sides. And then when we started kind of seeing a little bit of a pattern emerge with certain types of companies that would reach out, we turned it into a more of an outbound approach where we would then try to go find other companies that looked like those to build on the program and expand it from there.
So if you look at the partnership channel today, do you have affiliates in it, and what % do they make up? Like what you think of as a traditional affiliate versus what you think of more of these bespoke partnerships?
Yeah, I mean, we do have some traditional affiliates. The one thing that I would say is that everybody that is in our program, we have a direct relationship with. So we're not going through any sort of third-party intermediary to manage the relationship, to manage the structure of the deal terms. We work with, a very, very limited number of sort of kind of the more traditional rewards websites, but we tend to only work with them if the only way that you can place a purchase is by like going through one of those websites, as opposed to, the classic example of like, the retail may nots of the world, like I've already discovered your brand, I'm right in the middle of making a purchase, and they're asking me for a discount code, and I'm going to go browse the web and try to find something that'll give me a better deal. We tend to not work with any of those because it's not truly incremental to our business. But a site like, throw names out there, but a site like Ebates as an example, where there's a pool of customers that will only initiate a purchase through a site like that, that would be an example of somebody that we would work with.
So you have biz dev going on at Harry's separate from your team. How do they work? How do you work together? Right? 'Cause they're doing, I think, more branding kind of deals, and you're doing more, I guess, more transactional.
That's exactly right. I mean, I think that a good way to sort of explain it, and the teams work really closely together, but things that are sort of limited time offering partnerships, a handful of examples is we partnered with like High Snobiety this year to create a custom handle. We partnered with Heyday to create a limited edition face mask. We've in the past partnered with Jimmy Chin to come up with, he's this like famous rock climber, if you've seen the movie Free Solo, he filmed that. So we partnered with him and did a collaboration for a custom set of products. Those types of things tend to route through our marketing team. They're limited edition. We don't really track back in a one-to-one way like those efforts to the number of sales that we're making. They are a bit more long-term for us in building our brand. The things that are evergreen in nature, where we're setting up a partnership that we expect to drive sustainable volume for us over the long run, that runs through the performance marketing team. And these things can kind of go back and forth. Like somebody could reach out to us and say, hey, we want to partner with you, Harry's. And that conversation could start with one team or the other. And that team may realize that like, oh, this actually, is probably more of an evergreen partnership. And so they pass it over to the performance team, or the performance team might get one and say, oh, this is actually pretty cool, and maybe we should do something limited edition here. And they pass it over to the other partnership team that's on the marketing team. So,
Do your partnerships ever graduate into or become hybrids to the other biz dev team? Has that happened yet?
Yeah, I mean, there's a handful of conversations that are ongoing right now that I can't talk about, but in some of those instances, yeah, there are, discussions of like kind of passing back and forth.
So thinking of like what an affiliate manager does and what a partnerships manager does as a job, how would you describe the differences between those two roles?
It's a really good question. I mean, I think of a partnership manager as being probably more akin to a traditional business development role. They have to be like really creative thinkers. They want to try to create a structure that's mutually beneficial, that tends to be not something that is like a predefined or preset sort of deal structure. So thinking about the right way to structure the deal is takes relationship building. It takes knowing what's going to motivate the other company, and obviously on your side what's going to motivate you, but trying to land in a place that's mutually beneficial. Think about that a little bit different than like a traditional affiliate manager that is kind of running most of the business through a network in a way that is really rinse and repeat from like a deal structure perspective.
So Aaron, how do you differentiate an affiliate from a partner? I mean, you technically are a partner, but I guess what makes a partner more a partner, in your opinion, when you're thinking about it from ESPN or Disney's perspective?
I think I maybe use them a bit more interchangeably, or they've converged a bit in my mind, where I think within the affiliate or performance partnerships team that we have, there is definitely that aspect of business development, that strategizing on relationships that are maybe multifaceted. They are rooted in performance and kind of mutually aligned incentives, but there's typically more value being delivered there, be it brand or product awareness, be it actually awareness, kind of upper funnel KPIs that we do with some partners, where we're looking for reach and site visits and kind of longer consumer journeys, and not necessarily looking for partners to help us convert that in there. And so I think in my mind, when I say affiliate and when I work with my team on affiliates, in my mind, it's now evolved to that sort of partner definition, and that's how we really approach these relationships and the expectations I have of my team in terms of how they're working with these relationships.
So Wade, when you started first reaching out to these companies, these partners that weren't affiliates, that didn't know about affiliates, I mean, were you asking them to join your affiliate program, or were you kind of changing the conversation?
Yeah, that's pretty tricky, because I know that a lot of those conversations that we had, the first thing that we heard back is we don't work with affiliate programs.
Yeah.
And so at that point, we had to get a little bit creative and try to work around like, hey, in honesty, this is a partnership that we see having some real long-term legs with you. This is just an infrastructure piece that we have in place to make it work. And so now, I mean, when we go out and talk with major media partners or big blog sites or forum sites and things like that, partnership is definitely the terminology that we're using, because I think that really describes more accurately what we're looking to do. We're looking for a mutually beneficial relationship that we both got some skin in, and we're looking for them to develop some content and really lean in with the relationships that they've built with our audience, and we're willing to put some real money into them if they're able to make that work. And one of the things that for me is the most fun about doing deals like that is that if I'm, for instance, we worked with a big Clemson University site when Clemson won their first national championship in football a few years ago. And these guys had had their site for probably 12 years, and they've been running it and hadn't really done a lot of revenue with it. It was just something they did because they loved it. And we came in the year before. They had done some decent money with us because the school started kind of emerging as a power. They'd had some smaller wins for us that started to show us that, hey, these guys really have something going on. They popped up out of nowhere when the Chicago Cubs were making their World Series run and said, oh, by the way, we have a Cubs site. Can we do something with that? I was like, yeah, please. I mean, what can we do? And like, is it anywhere near as big as your Clemson site? They said, well, it's not as big yet, but the engagement's really good. And so they made $100,000 in sales on the Cubs win. And then when Clemson ended up playing in the national championship game, I actually got a call from the guy saying, hey, I only need 2 things from you. I'm like, well, what do you need? He's like, well, I need my creative package. I'm like, okay, it's on the way. He's like, and I need a challenge. It's like, oh, okay. What's your past record? And I told him what the record was for the previous national championship win. And he's like, I'll have that beat tomorrow by 2. It's like, well, you got some balls anyway. I mean, I like being aggressive. I mean, that's cool. He's like, you'll make it worth my while? And I said, absolutely. And he had it beat the next day by 2. And in the end, 4 weeks later, we looked back and I sent him a nice, swag package to take care of his team because he's like, I challenged my team to come up with the content that drove this relationship. And he's like, I think they did pretty well. And I'm like, yeah, I think they did pretty well too. And I told my boss, I just whipped out my P card and made the order to send him what he wanted. And I talked to my boss and she said, well, what did he send in traffic and in revenue? And I told her, and she's like, does he want anything else? And so it was really cool taking somebody that had been working on this forever, and they made over $40,000 on that event in a couple of weeks of work. And that's real money, and they were right up there with some of our top performers on the coupon and cashback space for that month, and bigger than most.
Well, especially when they weren't even used to making money through those properties. You've opened up a new revenue stream. I kind of boil down the difference is I think it's very easy to talk to an affiliate and ask them to become a partner. Right. It's a little more challenging to talk to a partner and say, I want you to become my affiliate. Right. I think it's not that it carries baggage, it just kind of lessens the importance of the relationship.
And we've had situations as well where when we approach somebody, they've told us that, hey, I've never monetized my site. And I would need to check with my audience. And we said, hey, go ahead. And so they put a post out on their forum saying, hey, Fanatics approached me. They want to do this partnership where, if you guys shop through our links, they'll give us a percentage. And the audience was overwhelmingly for it. They're just like, hey, you put a lot of time and effort into this. For God's sake, get paid. I mean, please. And just as long as you're transparent with us and you tell us what the deal is, we're cool with it. And we buy from them anyway, so that's cool. So it's kind of fun to be able to work out deals like that and be able to take it truly as a mutually beneficial partnership kind of an approach.
The thing I don't know if it's a fear or just kind of it's going to be a lot of work or I don't know where to get started, but I think for people that are doing affiliate and they sit there and they think, look at all this information that's being presented here, we should be doing partnerships too. It's a good idea. And then they're like, what? How do I find partners? I already know where to find affiliates. They're known entities. They know what they're doing. You say you want to affiliate with me, they can get up and running. A partnership, I got to dial for dollars. First I got to figure out a target list. Like who will be a partner, right? How did you kind of brainstorm or map out who could be a potential partner and start kind of hitting the ground, reaching out to them?
Yeah, so I think I always like to say the universe of affiliates or partnerships and the channel is infinite in terms of its potential, and I think that's why I've been able to stay in it the past decade and why I'll probably still be in it the next decade. You can really make anyone a partner. All you have to do is identify where those synergies lie. We've run tests even with Fanatics, for example, in terms of partnerships and a very synergistic business, right, where they have obviously a very sports enthusiast audience, and so do we, and in a non-competitive capacity. I think in terms of identifying and trying to map out that sort of hit list, we've tapped into a variety of means. We've kind of brainstormed just some of those sort of tier one caliber businesses like a Fanatics that we think have that sort of non-competitive synergy with us as a business. We've turned to third-party research and tools such as the SimilarWeb to kind of identify pockets of traffic that are maybe going to competitors or similar sites and saying, hey, maybe this website is not operating now as an affiliate, but based on the scale that they're seeing in the referrals they're making to these other websites, there's something there that we could start to help them monetize and build a relationship here for ESPN Plus as well.
And then, are you guys able to, with ESPN Plus, are you able to leverage your content? Because I think that, if I'm a partner and I can get some of your content on my site, that's going to help me, right? So have you been doing any of that?
Yeah, so funny enough, we also have a dedicated business development team within Disney streaming services, and they're focused, I would say, more on sort of the distribution type deals, right? The connected TV devices and different electronics and bundles with wireless carriers and that kind of stuff. But we've actually started to pull them into some of the conversations we're having with larger publishers. For example, in the daily fantasy sports space, some of the partners we're considering working with there, and actually seeing are there content rights that we could maybe position as sort of a limited license or value add to, say, a daily fantasy sports partner, so that they can kind of pull in sizzle reels or teasers or something like that within their ecosystem and actually have that as something that's delivering value to their customer who's participating in these leagues, who's very passionate about following the players and teams that are making up their team, and actually serve as a very powerful lead-in and referral out to us and actually signing up for the service. And I think those types of innovative or unconventional tactics and things that we can bring to the table beyond just a bounty or beyond just a rev share are really what make me passionate about this space and kind of demonstrate the creativity you can bring to the table beyond just the dollars you have in your performance marketing budget.
David, at Harry's, what was kind of the roadmap? How did you say, okay, what, grooming message boards? No, male grooming message.
Some of those, sure. I mean, there are definitely blogs where people are talking about grooming. There's some of the bigger media publications as well that they always want a story to tell, and Harry's has had a lot of really good stories throughout the years. It's interesting because some of what we have done from a partnership perspective was inbound and then looking for patterns, like I mentioned before. Some of it, though, is also just like observational. Like you can look at what other companies are doing out there, and that's true for any channel. Like you can get a direct mail piece sent to your home and be like, oh, maybe we should do mail, But from a partnership perspective, if you're, using services from the financial institutions or using services from telecom, or if you're traveling, like you're going to see a lot of partnerships that are already in place. And I think if you kind of put your creative thinking cap on, you can think about how that would apply to your business and how might you approach one of those companies and what can you offer of value. And that can be content. I mean, that's, certainly in your case and in my former case at Linda, that was really valuable, and we were able to leverage that to create some interesting deals that were, we think, providing real value to those companies and to their customers. In the world of Harry's, we don't really have content in that same way, but we do have really cool products that people like to think of as being interesting gifts or presents or ways of rewarding their customers, and we can use that to introduce our brand to people for the first time, and hopefully those people, not hopefully, we'll track and make sure, but that those people are coming back and staying on as Harry's customers. And so trying to think about like what is that thing that is valuable to them that also, makes it so that we can grow our business.
So how are you structuring the team to, you have like hunters and you have people managing, or how's that work? Like I agree, if you see somebody else doing a partnership, you can knock on their door and say, we'd like to do one like that, or you do a partnership with someone and then you call someone like them and say, we did a partnership with them, we'd like to do it with you. It kind of creates that, it already exists somewhere else or with you, so why not do another one? That seems to be pretty easy to kind of get the ball rolling, but
it can be. There is I don't want to sort of undersell like how easy that is. There is a fair amount of legwork, as you can imagine, that goes into finding the right contact at the company and getting that person on the phone. And so we definitely have like, some outbound support that can, if we're like, hey, we just partnered with this company, here are 3 other companies that look just like that, can you go find the right person at that company to queue up the conversation with? We have people who are a little bit, more entry-level positions that can go do that type of work. And then if they find that right person, our head of customer acquisition tends to lead that call and think about, because you kind of want somebody who is senior enough to be creative in the deal structure, but also have enough authority to be able to do something that's a little bit outside of the norm. Which is probably in my mind, like I guess to go back to your earlier question, like the biggest difference between sort of inviting somebody to an existing program versus kind of in a creative and strategic way, like thinking about something new on the fly, like that tends to be sort of more partnership versus something that's kind of bespoke or not bespoke, but like rote and you're kind of doing something that you've always done. So that's kind of the approach that we use.
It kind of mirrors a sales team, and we have like business development reps that are trying to set appointments with account executives who are more fluent in the value proposition and how we could work together, when we're trying to sell our products.
Yeah.
So you're kind of taking the same approach there. And then once you get them on board, then who's kind of seeing everything get in place, everybody get productive, right? It's one thing to talk about it.
Yeah. I mean, it kind of then reverts back to the team that was doing the outreach to do the setup. And sometimes that's technical in nature. If we need custom links, custom landing pages, install tracking pixels and things like that. None of it's really all that complicated, but it certainly takes a little bit of time. And so having some support there to make sure that we can kind of execute everything that we had agreed upon with the partner, that kind of goes back to the team that was doing the outreach.
What about you? How are you?
And that's something that I'm really kind of going through right now as we transition into thinking about having a traditional affiliate program into being more partnership based, because there definitely are roles that need to be filled in doing this at scale. And that's kind of been my challenge over the last year is, how do we take this stuff that we knew was good and multiply it times 5? And so right now I'm kind of working with my team to try to find who the people are that are, I do a lot of the hunting. That's just what I love. I'm kind of brought up in a sales family, and so it's what I love doing. I've got Joe Sousa on my team who has a lot of affiliate side experience, so he does a lot of the high level hand-holding and relationship management for the high level partners, because he knows his stuff and he can connect with them and walk them through exactly what's going to work. Then I have some junior people that help out with a lot of kind of the vetting process with some of the partners that we're looking at, a lot of the basic operations, getting links set up, getting links sent out, checking with these guys, making sure they've got the creative that they need. And we're definitely looking, we've got some additional resources, one of our other offices that can help us with more of that kind of vetting en masse. And so we're starting to see some crossover now with our biz dev team as well, to where in the past, a lot of what they were doing was co-branded site deals, but that's something that we're starting to kind of move away from. And so there's some of the deals that they had done previously that they're starting to look to push to us on the partnership side, which is fantastic, because these are some people that are very high level players that we honestly thought in the past that we could probably do better with, because we're in the trenches doing this stuff all the time and making these relationships work from the bottom up. I've always been a believer that you can do some of these big deals from the top down. If you go out and work with like a blog network or something like that, well, yeah, I want to do the deal at the top so I can work with all 300 of these sites. But when it comes time to actually make money with people in like a network situation like that, it needs to be happening at the ground level, because they know what their audience is into and wants to hear about. And so we're starting to see some cooperation with the biz dev team and understanding that, hey, we have the ability to deliver at a very high level on these kinds of deals. So hey, maybe we should rope in the partner guys and see if we can find a way to make this work. And fortunately, with our brand getting stronger over the past few years, we're able to convince people that, hey, this is worth doing. We don't need a co-branded situation as much anymore. Fanatics can stand on their own. All we have to do is say, hey, we partnered up with these guys, and they know the sports space, so you should work with us that way. And I think it's pretty exciting, moving forward, being able to have some additional resources like that to do some of that really high-level hunting, and then letting us plug in, the relationship once it works. But being involved in the sales process at the same time, because we do have some cool stories that we can tell to help close the deal.
One thing you hear a lot when people talk just about affiliate is that, okay, I get 20, 30, maybe 50 good affiliates, and that makes up 80, 90% of the volume. And then the real growth just comes from managing those partnerships. As they grow their business, you kind of are on along with that. Maybe a new partner comes out of the ether every now and then. By including partnerships in this, well, first of all, I don't think you said it. How's your program breakup now, affiliate to partnerships? What's the ratio right now, do you think?
Probably 50-50-ish, and it's sliding. It started off at like 80 affiliate, and now, and over the last couple of years, we've been mindful about trying to move it the other direction, and so it's definitely moving in the right direction from what I see, and I think that's going to continue to move over the next few years.
How about you? Are you seeing more partnerships, because that's really the direction you guys are going? So you're not going to run out. Let's say there's a lot of opportunities.
Yeah, I think again, I kind of view it as infinite pool of potential. We may have to spend more time eventually on the business development side of things with a courtship of education or convincing, traditional media players to operate on a more pay-for-performance kind of model, or we may need to go out there and actively recruit some of that long tail. But we're really pleased with the trajectory we have, and I would say it's primarily partner-based. We don't work with RetailMeNot, we don't work with Ebates, we don't work with those traditional affiliate partners. And my aspiration for the team is that we're one of our largest, if not the largest, marketing channel for the business, and that's kind of the mission we've set out to achieve.
Well, I think being able to knock on a door and say you're Disney gives you a pretty good advantage at getting in, at least to have a conversation.
Most people return your calls.
Yeah, it's nice, I know. And I think even just ESPN, obviously, from a sports content, you guys have a lot of exclusive, right? So I think that really gives you an unfair advantage at being able to craft some of these partnerships.
Well, and I think that's part of what we bring to the table. I think other businesses, different verticals, also have unique selling points that extend beyond just the financial incentives. I think Wade touched upon some of those, for example, with the Fanatics business, and not going to lie, the content is definitely a draw for partners, and it does empower us to work with everyone from local newspapers who are writing about college sports teams within that area, to the actual universities themselves, up to kind of bigger national entities who are covering the major leagues or UFC events. And there's just a lot of versatility in that range of content that allows us to partner with partners of all shapes, all sizes, all areas of the country.
So when it comes to managing partners, I kind of think about like how we or any company manages a sales force, right? Somebody gives you a number, go get $1 million in monthly revenue in new SaaS revenue or whatever the goal is for the sales team. And let's just pretend you have 10 salespeople. They could all infer that they're each supposed to do 100,000. Maybe their goals differ, but it's unheard of that a salesperson doesn't get told what their quota is and isn't measured ongoing through the month and the quarter to goal, right? You're behind, you're ahead. There's maybe even accelerators or incentives to exceed. I don't hear and see that as much in the partnership channel today yet, and I'm wondering, are you guys looking, you might internally say, we expect this partner to drive this much. You kind of talked about they came to you and wanted to know what a big number would be, but are you guys actually setting goals quarterly or monthly and actually working with the partners on their pacing and incenting them, putting the right incentives in front of them like a sales team would be managed?
I wouldn't say yet at the partner level. We definitely do it at the channel level. So we've built out sort of an annual operating plan, the trajectory that would get us to the goal that I mentioned previously, how we're trending towards that, how our channel falls in terms of overall market share relative to the rest of our media mix. And I think we, as a team, kind of leave it to the different sides of the house. So we structure ourselves kind of like you've mentioned, where half of the team is focused a little bit more on business development. The other half is currently focused on kind of more optimization or almost account management with existing partners. And between both sides of the business, it's kind of figuring out the creative ways to ladder up to that greater goal. So it may mean onboarding a net new relationship and accelerating growth with a brand new partner. It may mean optimizing our conversion rates with, one of our top existing 3 partners. And I kind of like having that flexibility to empower the team to get creative on how we get there. But we're absolutely thinking of, kind of quotas for growth for the channel as a whole, and how we continue to expand our market share relative to paid search, display, paid social, all those channels.
Have you started doing that at all, Wade? I mean, is it?
Actually, I think one of the things I'm most excited with the move to Impact, having the financials allow me to do that more aggressively. Because right now, if you're on another network and we're paying a percentage of payout, and so if I jack up people's commission rates, I'm paying the network more. So I think being in a different situation is going to enable us to really look at things holistically and be able to come to people and say, hey, we think this is what you're capable of. And putting a number out there and saying, if you can hit this, I think we can make it more worth your while. I've watched a lot of other managers. I've networked with a lot of other managers, and I think I'm more inclined to do things with a kind of dangling a carrot, having a bonus kind of a structure where we have a challenge. If they're able to meet it, we go ahead and make that work, or we put some accelerators in there, versus necessarily just increasing the commission rate, because I think there needs, I think it works better if there's something that's being chased. I'm a sales guy, like I said. I mean, that's kind of the way my brain works, and so I'm thinking of that's probably the way that I want to challenge some of my partners as well. It's like, hey, we can definitely make this worthwhile. In the end, they might be making the same money, but it's kind of fun to give somebody a $10,000 bonus.
But I mean, also, who helped hit your goal. You had 10 partners with 10 numbers, and 5 of them hit their numbers, 5 didn't. You've got to try to work with them maybe to be stronger, because you had that expectation or an agreed upon number, right? It wasn't you gave it to them and lump it or leave it. How about you guys? Are you taking that approach at all with any partners?
We don't set quotas in that sort of same way. I think from an internal perspective, what's interesting to us is keeping track of all the numbers throughout the entire funnel. Right? So how many people did we research this month? And of the people that we researched, how many did we outreach to? And of the people we outreach to, how many did we make like a connection with? And of those connections, how many new partners did we onboard? And the team at Harry's is really, really great, really strong in a lot of ways. And so it doesn't take much for them to just ask themselves the question of what could we do to double that, or what could we do to triple that? And if we needed more resources, or if I could carve out more time to do that, do I think it would grow the business? And for us, if we think about partnerships as being another channel for us for acquiring new customers and introducing our brand, the channel managers are really responsible for coming up with their own goal. So we build a bottoms-up forecast for every single month, and we really empower those channel managers to own their channel as if they're the CEO of that thing. So we're not in a sort of heavy-handed way saying, hey, find more partners, drive more sales. It's really on them to say, hey, here's what we think we can do. And if they're blocked in any way, then they should raise those issues or those concerns. But they're looking at the entire funnel. And
I think to an extent, finding out what their goal is. Hey, how much would you like to make out of this? What makes it worthwhile to work with us? How can we get you there?
Right.
And I think definitely encourages engagement as well.
I think that's too often ignored. You need to maybe listen to partners in terms of their expectations, talk in the lens of earnings per click, for example, versus focusing on the rev share, the bounty side of things, and really understand what would it take to make this a strategic partnership in their eyes. When do you rise to the top of the pile when it comes to all of the advertisers that they can partner with, and what are the incentives you need to put into place to make that a reality?
So I know we're just running out of time here, but I just want to point out, when we were putting this panel together, it became to me, and I know you alluded to this a little, Aaron, but the 3 of you as partnerships that could go in any direction from a demographic. Male grooming products, not that only men buy ESPN and Fanatics apparel, but the fact that there's something there that you guys could each do to market or benefit the consumer is a no-brainer. I know we've kind of had some back conversations setting up this panel, but does that seem like those are the kind of partnerships you guys are always looking for?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it just seems like I said, it's like we could have had a panel just on you three talking about how you're all going to partner together for
Yeah,
40
no,
minutes.
totally. I mean,
Next year.
yeah, next year. And as mentioned, I mean, we've done some tests with Fanatics actually in terms of running media with them and email exposure, and have a few other tests lined up where to your point, audience alignment and businesses are so synergistic, it would be foolish of us not to continue to test and figure out something that's mutually beneficial there.
Awesome.